All right, for this video, we're going to be upgrading our management domain from 9.0.1 and the entire stack over to 9.0.2. So we'll come over to, from the VCF operations console and fleet management, we're going to go to lifecycle. And if we branch off VCF instance, you'll see there is a download option for our SDDC manager that has 9.0.2.0. And then if we actually look at our BOM, or what we have currently installed, right? This is where everything is currently at. So we're going to go through a several phased approach on upgrading the SDDC manager, and then you'll see the list for the, I'll probably have different videos for all the other ones, or do it in this one. I guess you'll know. So we'll go ahead and kick off and actually do a plan upgrade for this domain. And the version we're going to go to is 9.0.2.0. Now, it already has a targeted version for everything, so we're going to confirm it. As you can see, the stack here. And we could see this is the version we have. And we're going to want to kick off the SDDC manager. It's going to need to do the NSX manager, and then vCenter, and then finally the ESXi hosts. So we'll go ahead and do done here. And for step C, you can see we're at 0.4, and we're going to have to download our bundles. Now, we could have done this ahead of time, but it's better to show you what it's like going in with nothing downloaded. So I'll just go ahead and click download now. All right, so one part of this did download. So we'll go ahead and do update now. And these are important to know, but it's going to kick off this domain level upgrade, and we can actually monitor the tasks. And you can see it's upgrading the SDDC manager. Doesn't seem like there's any subtasks yet, but it is going to kick on. And the SDDC manager will go away for a moment. So this portion here will show you the upgrade. There it is. So we'll let this run, and we should be back once it's successfully completed, and then we'll continue with the second part of the upgrade. So our SDDC manager upgraded successfully. We're going to click finish here. So you can see it took about 15 minutes on my system. And there it is, completed. And now you can see our version upgraded to 9.0.2. Now if we go over to our management domain, we should be able to continue the next step of the upgrade. So 1 of 4 is done. Now we're going to want to upgrade. We're going to download the next set of bits, which I believe is the NSX bits. But let's go ahead and do download here. Now that our download's complete, we're going to go ahead and move over to configure the update, which is going to be wizard driven. We've got NSX Pre Checks. I'll leave everything default here. And let's do the pre-check. Now I do have a couple of NSX Edge clusters. Actually, one NSX Edge cluster with 2 Edge nodes, and then a single manager deployed in my environment. And we've got our cluster check going on. If I click View Details, you can see the progress. We'll go back to Updates, and we'll monitor it here. Once this is complete, our schedule update will light up here to the left of Cancel Update. All right, our check completed. If we click View Details and just see what our warnings are, and you can see here there's a warning regarding deprecated logical objects. Okay, which it says here starting during upgrade. Okay, so we'll see what happens. And we'll go ahead and schedule the update. Click Next. Upgrade now. I reviewed. And we'll let it rip and see what happens here. Okay, so the kickoff, the upgrade is moving along here. If we click View Status, you can see where it's at. So it's in the middle of doing the management cluster right now, which is a single node. And then it looks like it'll knock out the edges. So we'll come back. So we did get an error here regarding one of my edges. It seems to be, it could be related that the NICs are disconnected. So I will reconnect them here. Let's see how this kicks off. And we'll go ahead and, where's our retry? Ah, there it is. Looks like it's trying to retry automatically. Okay, so had rebooted the Edge nodes just for troubleshooting sake and kicked me back over to configure update. So let's see what happens when I go to configure update. It's behaving as if it's starting all over again. So we will go ahead and try to see what happens because our NSX manager never really upgraded. Okay, so we're back. We fumbled a few more times on the NSX upgrade. It continues to throw off some errors regarding Edge 02, Edge 01. I did notice I was missing my uplinks to my edges were being disconnected, and this was all due to kind of self-inflicted story with the way I shut everything down for a short period. But it did seem the edges did get upgraded. They now reflect in NSX as 902. However, the upgrade on VCF is not complete. So we've got some components that seem like they got upgraded, but VCF may not see them. So as a safe method, I already did a pre-check and it successfully did it. So this is going to be probably the third or fourth attempt. But before I do anything else, I'm going to come over to inventory in vcfoperations, and it should be under my instance, actually under my domain level, apologies. And I'm going to do a sync inventory. I'm going to select Edge Cluster Sync, and just to see if there's anything it needs to do there. So we'll let this go, and then I'm going to actually kick off the upgrade. So my domain sync completed successfully. You can see the previous upgrade failures. But if we go over to Lifecycle and check our management domain components, we're actually going to see that NSX is showing at 901 at a high level. However, the management cluster, which is a single node, does show 902, and my edge cluster show 902. Now let's see if my NSX manager is actually showing 902, which it is not. Something's definitely off right now, but I will go back to my lifecycle and kick it off again and see what happens. So now the pre-check's successfully completed for everything. Schedule update, and we'll just do upgrade now. Well, they say third time's a charm. All right, and I am pleased to come back and say this completed successfully. So definitely with some hiccups, but good learning lessons, of course. That's why it's great to do it in a lab. Please ensure that you contact support and review all documentation and take all proper backups of your NSX managers. So coming back to NSX, it did prompt me with a reload in the NSX manager interface, and it is now showing successfully at 902, no longer 90.1. And if we just go and check our hosts, I'm not sure our hosts are going to be lifecycle just yet because they are still showing at 901 across the board. So that is going to be a second part. That's probably going to happen when we do our lifecycle host, when we add our new image for 902 and then perform our lifecycle on the hosts. But before we go there, we are going to go now exit out the status, and we've got a message here, NSX upgradable failed. So now I am still showing the hosts all on 901, that's fine, but my NSX bomb is all upgraded to 902 with the exception of the hosts. And again, that is going to be normal. As a matter of fact, if we go over to one of our clusters that are of course image based, we can see that clusters are probably out of compliance, and we can actually do a check compliance here, and let's see what it comes back with. It should say there's VIBs that are waiting to be installed maybe, or maybe the VIBs are installed and just not compliant with the image, so we'll see. While that's running, we'll come over to Lifecycle, And now we're going to go ahead and kick off the download. Now we're at step 3, 2 of 4 are done, and now it's the vCenter. And just like traditional methods, we're going to upgrade the vCenter first before we can go to the hosts. So we're going to click download now and get the vCenter bits downloaded. Okay, the download is done, validated. Before I resume, I am going to take a snapshot of my vCenter. I would usually use a VMware backup as well, but running into some errors there when backing up. So I'm going to take a snapshot, and now we're going to start step 3, which is going to configure the update. And there's several options here. We can do a reduced downtime upgrade, which kind of deploys in new appliances, moves everything over to a target instance as it says. And yeah, again, you'll need additional capacity because it's deploying an additional compliant appliance, a temporary IP that you can use, but I'm just going to do regular. I'm going to accept the downtime. It's only a single vCenter. I have backed up my vCenter. We'll kick off the upgrade, review, and we'll monitor it. And again, it should show up as a task, and it should show some additional tasks in here shortly. Just briefly checking up, it looks as if we've got furthermore status, and upgrade is currently in install. Okay, coming back to the vCenter, it upgraded successfully. We are officially at 9.0.2. If we come to our upgrade sequence, you can see step 3 is done. Final step, upgrade to hosts in this environment. Now these hosts are going to be done a little bit differently. I'm going to do some pre-work on them. I've got 3 different clusters. I'm not going to do them all at the same time, but we will go ahead and get going on the hosts. So I will kick off the download so the latest ESXi image can start downloading. And in the meantime, I am going to create an image in my management domain that's going to be used for all 3 clusters at the same time. And that is done a little bit differently. I want to do it in advance just to have it ready as I'm going through the wizard later on, you'll see. But we'll come over to Lifecycle Manager. And then we can see we've got an image that we're using today, which is for 901. I'm going to create a new image. And I will call this I will just call it 9.0.2 for my management domain, just something somewhat descriptive. And then from the drop-down menu, you can see there's a 902 available in here. Now, I am going to be doing there's no vendor add-ons, no firmware for my hosts. However, there is a component I want to add, and that is my vSAN ESA nested VIB that William Lamb has kindly graced us with. So let me see, that should already be in here because I've used it previously. Let's see. Let me select all components. Nested. So I don't know if it gets cleared out, but I'm going to go ahead and upload it in the meantime. So let me just save this for now. Should allow me to save. Okay, good. So I have it in there, but I'm going to want to come back to it because I do need to add obviously something else to it. So if we go over to updates or software depot, we should have the option to import an update. And then we're going to look for our nested VIB in zip format. There it is. Nested vSAN ESA Mock VIB. We'll go ahead and import that. Okay. And I know I've done it before, or I might not have, because this is a 901 deployment, I believe. I don't think I did 9.0. But now if we go back to image library, and let's edit our image. And now we'll go to components, all components. And if we go maybe I should click add components. That would have been better, huh? There it is. So there's our nested vCenter ESA Mock VIB. We'll click select. And then finally, we'll just go ahead and we can validate. There's not much to really validate because there's no vendor add-on or firmware, so it should validate it successfully as it did. And we'll click save. Now we'll take a moment for vSphere to sync up with the image depot that's in Lifecycle Manager. And just as an example, I'll come over to Lifecycle Manager here. And if I click on the SDDC Manager itself and go to Image Management, you'll see that there's no image in here right now. Now, I might be able to import it. Let's see if it's available to import. So we'll check here. And yeah, there it is. So I can actually import this image. And it is going to be a separate task. And we'll give it some time for this to complete. So our image imported successfully. If we go over to Lifecycle and under our SDDC Manager, we'll see we do have an additional new image in our depot for 902. And our ESXi update should be ready for configuring. So we'll go ahead and configure here. Now, I'm not going to do all clusters at the same time. I'm going to do a custom selection here, and I'm only going to do cluster 1, which is the one that contains my core services. And I'll create some separate videos on the other 2 clusters because I want to use some different options. I'm going to select only cluster 1. I'm going to select my cluster, and I'm going to assign an image. And the only compatible image to assign for this update is the 902. That's why you did not see the 901 image. Now we'll click next. I don't have quick boot. Sure, it can migrate. I'm not going to enforce live patch. Click next and let the pre-check run. And we'll give it a moment for the pre-check to run, see if there's any errors, and then it should allow us to schedule it. Okay, so it completed the pre-check. Now remember, I do have a lot of consumer hardware here, so it's all warnings. Good thing there's no errors. It should allow me to continue. So I will go ahead and come over here and do schedule update. And we'll see where this takes us. So upgrade now, I have reviewed. And I did check my cluster to make sure there was no affinity rules for my single NSX manager or the edges. I probably disabled them, or I had one, so probably never created it, but which is totally fine. But I'm only going to be doing the management cluster, which is vSAN, 4 nodes. And if we check the status, it's already kicking off. So just checking in, host 3 is already at 902. So hopefully it's moving on to the other ones now. Okay, so the upgrade completed for just the management cluster, or my first cluster with 902. And you could see from my build of materials here, my cluster 3 and 4 are still on 901. I will create a separate video going over like parallel remediation there. So that's why we still do have a configure update option here. So that will allow us to perform lifecycle on the other remaining ones. But everything else did complete. My hosts all in this cluster are at 902. And we should be good to go. I hope that's helpful for everyone, and tune in for the next one.